Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm joined by Rahim Jones, Executive Director and Founder of Waymark Consulting. Now, Waymark focuses on helping small and mid-sized businesses get the strategic support they need to actually thrive, not just with ideas, but with execution that moves the needle. Rahim, great to have you on.
Thanks very much, Lawrence, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Would you mind providing us with a little bit more context around Waymark Consulting, what it is that you do, what are your areas of operations?
No problem. So Waymark started on the principle that small to medium-sized businesses should also have access to the same caliber and level that the bigger companies have when it comes to consulting, right? We're putting it in the hands of everybody, not just the select few. And that's basically where the journey started. And our service offering mainly centers around three pillars. The first one is what we call Keystone. That is everything operational, from project management to business process optimization. The second one is called Herald. And Herald basically focuses on marketing, branding, getting the visuals for the company that they need, right? Logos, etc., websites. And the last bit is what we call Watchtower, and that's the more interesting bit. That's where we focus on helping the companies get insights, right? We do the research. If they've got questions regarding, say, as an example, should we go the route of AI, right? We will do the investigations for you, right? And then guide you along the way as to what are the recommendations, what suits your business. And I think that's another key aspect of Waymark. And it's something that I'm going to have to just sort of go back in time a bit. It was an experience I had with a client, and it was ages ago. And at first the relationship was like very distant, right? Consultant, client. And he said something very interesting to me, and that was, "You are a consultant's consultant." And that stuck with me. And I was like, no, that needs to shift, right? It's not about the consultant, right? It's about the client. It's about their business. It's about understanding them, right? And helping them succeed and optimize. And that is why our whole approach is very much people-centric, right? We are there to understand first before we do anything, right? And I think being a small business ourselves, right, also gives you that added bit of context where we can go, we understand. We know the struggles that you're going to. We have empathy, right, for that. And that helps us to have better dialogues. And that goes across all three of the pillars: Keystone, Watchtower, and Herald as well. And that, in a nutshell, is what Waymark is about. It's not just a consultancy. It's a friend that you call up and say, "Hey, I need help." It's a partner in business, right? That's what Waymark is about. That's what in my mind separates us, right, from that.
Yeah, super interesting. And taking that experience and turning it into a business, I think is commendable. When you step back from the day to day, what strategic decisions have most shaped the way that Waymark's trajectory or direction?
So most of the decision making we do as a team, right? And it's the insights that I get from speaking to team members that helps shape the strategies, understanding what do they recommend, how do they see it, and then looking at what is the long-term view for Waymark, and keeping to that vision of whatever we do, we're doing it for small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses. Correctly there. So the sort of biggest shift that we had was in terms of our service offering. It was very broad at first, right? And I think that was probably exuberance and enthusiasm. We're going to offer everything to everybody all at once, right? But then having conversations with my team, what we decided was we're going to condense it. And that's where the three pillars started. Was an innovative thought from one of the team members. And I thought about it and I was like, that's actually pretty good, right? Let's give this a go, because what clients want at the end of the day is simplicity. Don't over design, don't over engineer when it comes. Just offer things that give value as soon as possible. Keep it basic, keep it light, right? And that sort of changed the direction in terms of strategically for our service offerings that we have, right? And I think that was the main one. That was, if I can distill it down to that one thing. I think, yeah, that was the big change for us.
Yeah. And how are you able to stay grounded when short-term delivery pressures compete with your long-term focus?
By gaming? No, I'm sorry, that was just a joke. How do we stay grounded? It comes back down to the why, and what we call that is our true north. Right? The why are we doing this? Why do we exist? Right? And that's what keeps our focus. Our existence, for Waymark's very existence, is there to help SMBs. Right? That's why we started it. So any decision that we make strategically, operationally, tactically, anything like that, is linked to that true north, the why. And if it detracts from that, right, we don't do it. As simple as that. And that's what keeps us grounded. We focus on our true north, and also the values of the company keeps us grounded as well. It's contribution, it's people, it's trust, and it's growth, right? And having that culture within Waymark Consulting, right? That's the way people think, it's the way people behave, right? That's what keeps us grounded when things start shifting.
And how are you able to balance being a hands-on leader with giving your team the autonomy to innovate?
I think it's based on my experience, right? I've worked as a project manager, program manager, scrum master, all of that, right? And in the basic sort of principles of Scrum or Agile, one of the things that you want the team to be is to be self-managed, right? You want them to be able to function and give them that space, and that comes with trust, which is, again, another core value of ours. And what I've found is that when you give people range and freedom, obviously there's some guardrails to it, right? And that's agreed up front. They flourish, right? And that's how I'm able to give it, and it's built of trust, because I can see when they're innovative or when they come with a recommendation, that enthusiasm, and that sparks me as well. When they're enthusiastic about something, it's like it goes down to the core of me. And seeing people in the team happy and like, wow, we're contributing, we're doing something innovative, let's give it a go. I always give them that space, right? And also based on my past experience is continuous improvement, right? And continuous learning. We test it out, give people that opportunity, right? If it works, excellent. If it doesn't, it's a lesson learned. We can refine, we can change direction, right? And that's how I'm able to give them that autonomy, right, to do what they need to do, but within the guardrails of let's have the discussion, let's create a safe space in order to do this, let's have measurable outcomes, etc. And that still keeps everything in place, but lets the team do what they need to do, and let them do what they do best, right? That's why they're here. You don't want to stifle that, right? It's just not how I lead. Is very much, it's working with that team, right? Being, in my mind, right, being a leader is not sitting in an office separated from everybody, not hearing what they have to say, and it's what one person says goes. That's not how it works. This is a team. We're people at the end of the day, and we're there to contribute and deliver together.
Now, being a fellow founder, I know that when you start a company, you initially have to wear many hats for a number of reasons, but resources, whatever it may be, you have to juggle a couple of balls. And then as you start to expand as a company and you bring more people on board who can cover a couple of areas within the business, you start to hand those hats off, but there's still conflict within a founder around, as you say, allowing your team members to flourish, but making sure that things are done correctly. Now, whether that's the sort of dreaded micromanagement approach, or just sort of managing from above, there's still a conflict there. How do you navigate that?
That's a good question. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is, I think when you're starting off a company, right? It's part of you. It's an idea that you've had that you want to realize, and at first you do everything right, and then you walk that fine line of becoming very precious about it, or overly precious, or ego starts getting involved, right? And what you soon learn is that, no, I can't do this by myself, right? I need help. And that is one thing. When you're a leader, you have to be able to balance that. And you shouldn't be too distant that you can't, or realize that you need help, and you need people there, right, to help you realize this vision that you had, right, to sort of help me realize where Waymark is today, and the service offerings that we have, and all the good work that we've done, right? And that's where everything comes together for me. And it's a conversation that I have with myself at night. Sometimes I have to consciously, like, just step back. Don't get too involved, right? And I don't know if I'm coming from a place of truth here. I mean, there are times when I'm like laying awake at night and like, okay, I can do this and I can push it forward, but no, step back from it. You have a team. They do amazing work, right? Let them do what they need to do, right? Give them the guidance. Give them that opportunity to grow with you and with the company as well, right? So you have to be selfless, and it takes a while. It takes a while. I mean, it's with anything that you've in a sense created yourself, or that you own. You think about it in terms of, this is mine. What if it fails, etc. But it needs to come from a place of growth as well. When I can sort of hand on my heart say, I'm not the same person that I was when I started Waymark versus what I am now. So every day there's a challenge, or there's a moment of growth for me, a moment of clarity, right, that has shaped me, right? And it's not all been easy. It's a roller coaster ride. But that's part and parcel that you need to accept when you're starting a business, that is going to happen. You are going to go through these sort of psychological shifts or emotional shifts, right? It's part and parcel. And the sooner you make peace with that, I feel then things just become that much easier to carry. So be prepared that things will change, and you as an individual, you as a leader, you as a business owner, you will change along that path.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, that the reason you are hiring and expanding your team's footprint is because you can't do it all. You've obviously would have reached a point as a entrepreneur, startup founder, juggling many balls, as I said, wearing many hats, and you're now needing to expand the company's footprint, and maybe the requirements from your clients are such that you just can't keep all those balls in the air. And that's always, for me, something that I remind myself is, I hired these team members for a reason. And the reason is that I can't do it all. And, at times I have to be realistic with myself and say, I also, don't have the right amount of experience to accurately handle the challenge. And that's why I've hired, X, Y, and Z team members.
And that's exactly it. I mean, you're going to wear different hats, yes, but there are people out there, like you rightly say, that have got more experience, that have got different insights, different ways of thinking, that can just augment, enrich, and that's the beauty of working in a team, right? I think if I had to continue doing things solo, Waymark would have looked very, very differently, rather than like letting people in and opening up to possibilities, opening up to opportunities, opening up to potential, right? And that's a great feeling, right?
Yeah.
When it's like, wow, this is actually better than I would have ever thought of, right? And yeah, and just again, just when you give people that range, and it's like you trust what they're doing, they come there with a unique set of skills, with a unique set of experience, or the way that life has shaped the way that they think or behave. It just makes it such a more rich experience as well. And I think a lot of founders or people that starting their own company, they go through that period of, I'm going to have to do this myself. I'm going it alone, and they feel isolated and separated from everything else, because there's no one else that they can talk to that understands them. But once you have that team around you, right, that feels different. It doesn't feel like this lonely journey that you're going on trying to establish a bit of something. And yeah, that's also part of the things that brings me kind of joy when it comes to have started Waymark and the trajectory that we're going in.
Yeah, amazing. So, Rahim, let's change our focus to some internal processes, and in particular, your delivery process. Can you walk us through what that delivery process looked like from client onboarding to post-project insights, for example?
Okay, so we actually have a name for that. Internally, we call it True North,
Right.
right? So True North is a culmination of just from experience, my background, etc., and the whole concept of doing things simplistically for clients, right, and giving them value. So it all starts with just properly understanding the client, right? Not with going in with sort of your own view, your own lens of how you think the company operates or what you think their challenges are, right? And once you truly understand their challenges, the way that they work, what it is that they want to improve, right? That's when the journey starts for us. So it starts with getting that insights first and understanding the context in which we will operate. So it's a full-on journey. The next part of True North is where we co-create, co-design, collaborate with the client to come up with what is the solution that is going to address their challenge that they have, right? And also, what is that metric associated with it? Because you can't just shoot in the dark. You need to be able to baseline and benchmark that what you're bringing once you've delivered that solution, that it is actually going to bring value to the client, right? And whatever the sort of benefit will be from that. Then it is full on the delivery side, right? So we can scale very quickly. And it's across all three pillars: Herald, Watchtower, and sorry,
Keystone.
just Keystone. My mind just went there. I'm so sorry. And then last but not least is that, similar to what a project has a closeout, right? It's looking at it and going, okay, cool, what is the lessons learned, right? What did we do well? What didn't go so great, right? And what is areas for continuous improvement for that client? So long after Waymark has sort of exited, right, that they can still continue to grow it, enabling them to do that, right? So it's not just come in, make a change. We enable you, we give you the tools to continue, right? Be it, for example, implementing continuous improvement sessions with your team, post implementation, right? Those are small bits, small changes that they can make that will continuously give value to the client long after Waymark has left. And that in essence is our True North. And that is the process that we follow.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And if we drill into that process in a little bit of detail, I mean, are there particular areas of the True North where everything seems to flow really smoothly, but then possible areas where, maybe work needs to be redone and there are a couple of snags?
That's part and parcel, right? When it comes to projects, project landscapes shift, right? Things happen with a client internally, but if you prepare beforehand, right, analyze the risk of potentially things going wrong and coming up with what that mitigation is going to look like if that probability happens, right, then you can deal with the snags easier when things go wrong, right? The other thing is to be truthful, upfront, absolutely honest with your client, right? Don't sugarcoat. That's what we don't do. We're direct with you, right? We give you it as it is so that you understand, right? This is a relationship, this is a partnership, and it's built on trust and honesty, right? And it's letting them know that, oops, for example, XYZ may have gone wrong, but we can recover from it, and how you're going to recover and what those implications are, right? That all helps when things go not as expected, right? It's how quickly you can identify it, how quickly you can let the client know so that they can do what they need to do, and how quickly you, with the help of the team, can recover and get everything back on track.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I like the honesty approach, and not sugarcoating. I think is a really sound strategic decision that you've made. So if we continue with the processes, but now look internally at Waymark, the way that the company functions across the broader team, what internal processes have made the biggest difference in terms of your ability to scale efficiently?
From a process perspective, I mean, we practice what we preach. And simplicity. Our processes are simple. They're not over-engineered, right? And it brings value as quick as possible, and benefits us as quick as possible as well, right? And our processes are set up in that way. It's easy to understand. So when people join Waymark or they work with Waymark internally or as a client, they're not going to be, how can I put it, overwhelmed, right? And it, it brings me back to, sorry, I'm going to have to do this, but it's a lesson that I learned when I first started in project management, right? Fresh out the gates, right? And I had this fantastic mentor, and I mean, how many, 15, 20 years later, when I engage with people, I still function by this. It's still part of my work ethic. And she said something very, very important to me. She said, BS baffles brains, facts cannot be disputed, right? And that's the thing, right? It's keep things factual, keep it honest, keep it truthful, and keep it simple, right? Because that's what brings value to a client, and that's what in our processes as well is how we operate, right? And we have constant check-in sessions with the team, and we've got like a chat. So if people come with an innovative idea, right, they can just, I'd like to try the following. Cool, go for it. Let's see what happens. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's see what guardrails we need to put up, and let's test it out. Right? That's how we function internally. It's collaborative, and again, it's based on our values of contribution. No idea that someone brings or suggestion is too small not to be evaluated and understood, and see if it can actually be something that's going to benefit us in the long run.
Yeah, I love that. And how are you able to keep quality consistent across multiple projects? Do you have sort of set playbooks? How do you ensure that quality is consistent?
So quality is agreed upfront, right, with the client, right? So past the sort of what does success look like for the client, right, is what is sort of the acceptance criteria, that when we've delivered it, what will they sign off on, right? And that's how we stick to the sort of the quality element when it comes to delivering on projects, right? And it's a longish session with a client, because you truly need to understand, so that when it comes to the end of the project and we say, here it is, we have given you what you've asked for. It enables a client to actually critically look at it and go, okay, this was the acceptance criteria, right, that I've asked for. This is the evidence that we've met it, right? And that creates that at the end of it, you will get a quality product or service, etc., out of Waymark Consulting.
What would seamless delivery look like for you?
Seamless delivery. Is there such a thing?
That's why I'm smiling.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh, that is. Just nothing happens seamlessly, right? I wish it did, right? But seamless delivery for me would be that from start to end of that engagement, right? That the communication is there, there's flow in what we do, right? There's mutual understanding with the client, right? There's nothing goes wrong. There's no internal or external factors that jeopardizes the delivery, right? That to me is smooth delivery. But in all honesty, I mean, you can get it as smooth as you like, right? But there's still going to be if I can put it there's still going to be those little bumps. It happens, right? It's not something that can be avoided, but as long as the client experience of it, right, going through that journey with Waymark, working with us, right, if they come out smiling at the end, right, and yes, this was great, this was a great experience, you guys delivered, you kept your promise, the quality was there, all of that to me is the mark of a smooth delivery. It's how the client feels afterwards.
Yeah, it's a great answer. I think, as you say, no delivery is ever smooth. There's often choppy waters during the process, but
Yeah,
as you rightly said, if you can walk away with a happy client at the end of the
yeah.
project, then in totality, you could probably mark that off as a smooth delivery.
And hitting the deadlines.
Yeah. Rahim, how is technology shaping the way that Waymark delivers value, both internally to your team, but also more importantly for your clients?
So, especially when it comes to SMBs, I mean, technology should be used there to enable and to provide insights, right? And my view has always been SMBs, just as bigger companies, they also need to be able to have insights, be it, for example, what are the trends with deliveries, right? Or how many times have during the past period has a delivery or quality not been met, etc., right? And putting that in the hands of SMBs just will make their lives so much easier, right? They'll be able to adapt. They'll be able to meet the challenges that they face. I mean, there's everything now is about insights, data-driven insights, and to me, something that would be powerful to having that in the hands of SMBs.
And what sort of a role does artificial intelligence play in delivering value? But I mean, you've mentioned data analytics and data insights. Is artificial intelligence assisting you with that at all?
Okay, this is a hot topic. So for me and for the way we operate at Waymark, it's because our values is people first, right? AI is there to augment, not to replace, right? It's people thinking, people's innovation. When you go on to ChatGPT, it's a prompt that you put in, right? And if your prompt is good, you get a good result out of it. But for us, it's our way of thinking, our way of doing things primarily is people first. And I think those are it depends also on the appetite of the client. I mean, how far do they want to take it? And also having to answer that question, do we want it? Right? And that is part of a conversation, and I think it's probably a broader conversation that needs to be had, is using AI as something to augment what you're doing, right? If it can provide insights, etc., right, but not replacing critical thinking that you get from interacting with a person. That to me is the best balance of bringing in AI. And I'm speaking specifically when it comes to Waymark. So we'll tap into it, but not to a greater extent where we're going to replace processes, etc. at this point with AI.
Yeah, I think it's probably a very sound approach that you have, and I certainly agree with you that AI isn't here to replace humans; it's here to augment us, and it's here to streamline, free up resourcing, and have teams focus on the aspects of business that matters, which ultimately is client relationships, long-term strategies, etc., rather than spending hours and hours on sifting through data, researching, etc. So I think there's certainly a place, and a lot of the conversations that I've had to date around AI augmentation, agentic AI, is that the shift in approach towards AI is moving. It's happening in the sense that people are starting to realize that this isn't here to take your job; it's here to support you.
Yeah.
If we turn our attention now to your clients, you've mentioned that at Waymark you focus on small and medium-sized businesses, but what does your ideal client look like right now, and how do they usually find you?
Ideal client for us is once they've kind of reached that sort of critical mass where, like with any journey of a small business, where things are starting to happen, where the processes that you had before, or the way that you approach certain things or implemented certain things don't quite work anymore, right? Like with wearing many hats as a leader, right? You can't be everywhere all at once. Once you hit that critical mass where you're going to start expanding and taking on more clients, that is the sort of ideal client for us, right? Mostly it's in terms of referrals, right? We're upping our sort of marketing strategy that we're having, and sort of targeted, right? So we've got our LinkedIn presence, we've got our IG presence, etc. But we're looking at other ways through networking. But most of it is in terms of referral, and people start talking about it or reading our articles and going, okay, cool. Let's speak to Waymark and see what is it that they can offer us. But it's incremental given the where Waymark is currently, right? It's sort of it's targeted and it's more personal. And some of it is like, hi, have you heard of Waymark? Like reaching out to people or companies. So what I do with my team is we look at each one comes with what are the in their view are the sort of target industries, right, that we should focus on, right? And give me at least 3 companies, right, that we should target, right? They'll do the research, etc. And then we decide on, okay, cool, what is the best approach in terms of reaching out to them or communicating with them, right, in order to land clients for Waymark. So that's kind of the approach that we're following at the moment.
And you refer to critical mass as a key indication that a company or a business is the right type of people to be working with. I'm interested to understand, what does critical mass mean to you? Is it employee size, total number of employees within the company? Is it recurring revenue? Is it years of service? How long has the company been around for? Like, how do you, I mean, all 3 of those could play a part, of course, but how do you sort of gauge, like, yes, this is the right company that we should be looking at?
So, and like you said, it is all of the above, but I think it is because we don't have a crystal ball, we're not sitting in that company, right? We can only gain insight with what information is available. But the decision makers within the company, they know when they've reached that point of no return, right? Where it is the processes that we've had before isn't working at them as it should be, right? We can't go on wearing many hats, or decision makers become a bottleneck in the company, right? It's all these various factors that the decision makers, at a point, they will realize it, right? And that's the point where ideally we hope that they would have heard of Waymark and decided, okay, cool, we are at this point, these people can help us.
Okay, cool. Let's turn our attention to the market and your competition. It's always good to understand the competitive landscape. How do you see the consulting landscape changing into the future?
I think the shift when it comes to a consultancies going forward is it's stepping away from theoretical to practical, right? It's more seeing it as a partnership than just sort of a fly in, give a recommendation, and leave again, right? And I think that's what businesses want as well. They don't want, they're taking a chance on you. They're investing their time, they're investing their capital, etc., into this, right? And we bringing what we bring to it, right? And you want to have that. And if I go back to the not being a consultant's consultant, but actually you're engaging with people, you're engaging with a business, right? And you want to help them realize their dream that they had. I mean, that's why they started their companies, right? They had a dream, they had a vision, they had sort of, I don't know, a little spark in them that started everything for them, right? And it's truly understanding that. And if you and I think that's one thing about being a small sort of boutique consultancy, right? We understand that, right? And I think that is the direction that consulting is going in.
And so you're obviously looking at your consultancy approach from a modern lens, which is amazing. How do you see the more traditional consultancy moving into the future that you've described? Do you think they would essentially be losing relevance?
No, I don't think they'll lose relevance. I mean, a lot of the consultancy, I mean, they've been there for years, right? But I think the shift happens when they realize the potential in SMBs in South Africa. I mean, we've got, if you like, I was paging through IG, just the number of SMBs that's out there, right? That also need that level of support, right? That they can bring. It's just sort of in my view, sort of an untapped market, right? And if they realize that, I think that would be a major shift. It's just investing in that sort of the talent that we have here, right? Of entrepreneurs, of small and medium-sized business owners. I think that would be a major shift.
Rahim, let's have a look at some of the lessons you've learned since founding Waymark. I mean, looking back over the journey to date, what is a hard-earned lesson that now shapes how you lead your company?
I think the biggest lesson, right, is when you first start out, right, you're going to change the world all at once, and everything is going to happen very, very quickly, etc. Right? The big lesson is that these changes might work for some, but I think for the overwhelming majority, right, it's having to pace yourself, right, and celebrating those small wins, right, so that you don't lose that enthusiasm that first started you on that journey, right? Because sometimes you're so focused on we didn't hit this massive target that we set out for ourselves, but when you sit quietly and you just kind of, sort of, I tend to do when I go through that headspace, is what are the small wins that we actually had, right? It might have been like, oh, we've improved the way that we're communicating with each other, right? Or we tried out something that's new to us, Right. That's the biggest lesson, is that sometimes the slower incremental growth can sometimes be much better, right? Depending obviously on the context. But that's what I found for Waymark is we take the small wins, right? Breaking it down, and it's yeah, that to me is the biggest lesson, is at, things work out differently for different businesses for different reasons, but being able to accept it and do what you need to do to move the needle forward, right? Even if it feels like a big struggle that you're going through, or you're losing sight of it, and just bringing yourself back on track again. It's like true north. Like, what is your true north? What is that thing? Just going back to that why. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And just continuing. That to
Yeah.
me is the biggest lesson I've learned.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. I think businesses often get so focused on quarterly targets, H1 targets, H2 targets. How did we achieve? What did we achieve in the year? But they don't realize that the small wins, as you say, they compound and
Yeah.
put you in a much more likely space to achieve those quarterly, those H1, those H2 targets. And if you focus on those individual wins rather than the near misses,
Yeah.
I think you create a culture where everyone is upbeat and driving towards your ultimate annual goals, etc.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Florence.
So, Rahim, what's next for Waymark? What does the next 12 to 24 months look like for you?
So we're going to focus on network partners, right? Trying to scale in that direction. So we're looking for partners that share similar values, operate in services that could help augment what Waymark offers, right? So that is what we're going to be focused on going forward, building those solid relationships. And just again, when it comes to existing clients, it's just improving what we offer, right? Sticking to showing up and just absolutely bringing our best every time. So those are the major focuses for Waymark. There might be an additional service offering in the near future, which I can't give too much details about. But again, it's just we reevaluated some of it, and looking at what's happening, or what small and medium-sized businesses need, right, through conversations. It's like, and adapting to that. I mean, it's an ongoing journey for us at this point.
For our viewers and listeners who want to connect with you and the team at Waymark, where's the best place for them to do that?
So you can go to our website, www.waymarkconsulting.co.za. There is a contact us section, right, where you can email us, or you can use to contact us. There's also, you can email info@waymarkconsulting.co.za, and we'll get on it and get back to you as soon as we can.
Amazing, Rahim. Well, thank you so much for your time and for giving us the insights that you have into Waymark Consulting. It sounds like a very exciting stage that the company is at, and that you are prepping for a big leap into the future. So I'll certainly keep my eye on your trajectory and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, and thanks again for giving myself and for giving Waymark the platform in this podcast. We sincerely appreciate it. I sincerely appreciate it as well.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's it for today's episode of the Aegance Offscript Podcast. If this conversation sparks something within you, a thought, a question, or a new way of seeing your own business, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.